The Perez crash in Monaco, albeit not his fault, put Red Bull into many new problems as they not only struggle to stay at the top but now have to pay a significant amount of money to make a new car for Perez. This may well change the board's mind, who were more than open to extending his contract, but it looks like it's the same old for Checo now, as it's unlikely he will be a Red Bull driver in 2025. Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko has stated Sergio Perez's crash at the Monaco Grand Prix could leave the team handicapped in the title fight this year. Perez was involved in a high-speed crash on the opening lap on Sunday after colliding with Haas Kevin Magnussen as they ran up the hill after turn 1. The incident eliminated Perez and Magnussen from the race, as well as the second Haas car of Nico Hülkenberg. Marko highlighted that the severity of the crash is set to cost Red Bull several $1 million. That clearly affects us because there are considerations about what to do with the car, Marko told Motorsport magazine. $3 million are then missing for our considerations. In the worst case, this means that we can do less development. Perez began the 2024 season with a promising start, securing second place behind his teammate Max Verstappen in 3 out of the initial 4 races. It appeared that he was living up to the expectations set by the team management prior to the season's commencement. His performance during this period made a compelling argument for contract renewal, especially with the unexpected availability of Carlos Sainz, who was leaving Ferrari for 2025. Consequently, negotiations commenced, with Red Bull leaning towards a 1-year extension, and Perez remained hopeful of finalising a deal swiftly. However, his recent performances in the last 3 races have taken a sharp and unforeseen downturn. Although this dip coincided with Red Bull's toughest stretch of the season, it's evident that Perez has struggled to match Verstappen's ability to navigate through challenging situations effectively. His results include a subdued 5th place in Miami, later revised to 4th due to a penalty for Sainz, an inconspicuous 8th place finish at Imola after being eliminated in Q2, and a failure to progress beyond Q1 in Monaco, where he was involved in a significant first lap crash following Kevin Magnussen's attempted overtake uphill. This decline in form for Perez has been characterised by a decrease in qualifying performance, a 3-race absence from the podium, and an underwhelming comeback that has allowed both Ferrari to outscore Red Bull by 20 points and McLaren by 7 points to gain ground. This period of vulnerability for Red Bull may have been magnified by specific circumstances and track conditions, as both Verstappen and Perez have faced challenges. Verstappen managed to secure a race win and finished 2nd and 6th in the others, demonstrating resilience despite difficulties. In contrast, Perez has struggled more to regain momentum. His average starting position dropped from 3.6 in the first 5 races to 10.3 in the last 3. Although Monaco's retirement makes it difficult to assess his average finishing position, even with a generous assumption of a top 10 finish, his average drops from 2.8 to 7.3. His unease was palpable in Monaco, evident when he placed 5th fastest in final practice, albeit 0.35 seconds slower than Verstappen. He lamented the car's performance and the need for significant improvements ahead of qualifying. Could this negative energy and lack of confidence have translated into a tense and less polished Q1 performance, where Perez once again lagged behind Verstappen by 0.35 seconds? In a circuit like Monaco, such a gap represents a significant margin that numerous cars could fit into, potentially determining the line between progression and elimination. When queried about the strength of Ferrari and McLaren's driver pairings compared to Red Bull's, Horner's acknowledgement of the gap in performance is telling. "I haven't missed that." It must be disconcerting for Perez to struggle on street circuits where he previously excelled, especially considering Red Bull's historical weakness on these tracks, which had allowed him to shine compared to Verstappen. It's reminiscent of Perez's victory in Monaco 2 years ago, marred by controversy but followed by an immediate 2-year contract extension. Now, with Monaco coinciding with talks of Perez securing his Red Bull future, speculation swirls among various stakeholders. While Horner suggests the Monaco weekend hasn't influenced Red Bull's decision regarding Perez, the expectation is for a re-signing soon, although he maintains will make a decision in the fullness of time. It's possible that a final contract with Perez has yet to be signed, but there's a prevailing belief in the paddock that Red Bull has all but made up its mind, with plans being made under the assumption that Perez's stay will be confirmed before the Canadian GP. However, this time any renewal would be in spite of Perez's recent form rather than because of it. Last season, when Perez experienced a similar dip, it took a considerable amount of time to recover, and if history repeats itself, Red Bull could be paying a hefty price. Considering the Red Bull hierarchy's earlier semi-joking remarks that Perez's good form was influenced by contract negotiations, coupled with the absence of immediate pressure to make a decision, committing at this juncture seems a bit peculiar. The competitive rationale for retaining Perez appears weaker now than it did even a few weeks ago, suggesting that Red Bull's leadership believes the arguments for replacing him are even less compelling. Sainz remains an outstanding alternative, but his history with Verstappen, fraught with tensions from their Toro Rosso days, gives Red Bull pause. Sainz would only be definitely ruled out if Red Bull is confident in Verstappen's continued commitment, given insinuations from Jos Verstappen and Toto Wolff regarding a potential departure. Red Bull also shows no inclination to promote Yuki Tsunoda, despite his strong performances in the junior team. Daniel Ricciardo lacks the confidence from Red Bull to fulfill his dream of returning, and reserve driver Liam Lawson hasn't earned a promotion to the senior team. Thus, Perez, as the incumbent driver, benefits from being the continuity option despite not being the top choice. Red Bull doesn't necessarily require Perez to excel, they need him to be good enough, as has always been the standard for Verstappen's teammate. While Perez demonstrated his capabilities at the start of the season with a competitive car, there's uncertainty about whether he can consistently perform at a high level when facing competition from multiple rival teams. Perhaps a return to conventional tracks and circumstances will reignite Red Bull's performance and help Perez regain his early 2024 form in the process. Red Bull has been under increased pressure this year from rival teams, with Ferrari winning twice so far. McLaren has also taken a step forward this season, with Lando Norris winning his maiden Grand Prix in Miami earlier this month. F1 currently operates under a budget cap of $135 million, with crash damage not excluded from the expenses, although it currently holds the lead in both championships after winning 5 out of the opening 8 races. Marco has suggested that Red Bull will struggle if it's forced to conduct aggressive development to hold off the threat from its competitors. If we have to do something extra due to the greater competitiveness of Ferrari and McLaren, we are naturally handicapped. The 81-year-old also voiced concern over Red Bull's spare part situation ahead of next week's event in Canada, following Perez's impact in Monaco. If there is another crash, not everything will be available for both cars, he added. It does seem like Red Bull are in a bit of a slump at the moment, but one that might not end that soon. Verstappen complained on Friday that the Red Bull cars have had the same issues since the start of this era, and that now the opponents have realised what that is and they will use it against them. So it's highly likely that the Milton Keynes squad will lose more races this year to McLaren and Ferrari, and we definitely will have a constructors title fight as well. Will this make Verstappen leave, or will this get Perez fired? We will see, but the fact is that Red Bull's domination is ending sooner than we maybe thought, as the team needs both of its drivers to be on their best form this season to win both championships, based on how McLaren and Ferrari are performing of late, unless Red Bull has something up their sleeve to re-establish the kind of car advantage we saw in 2023. But even then, Perez went missing at times, often when Verstappen was winning with ease. What do you think? Will Perez stay in the team, and can Red Bull retain both of their titles this year? Let us know what you're thinking in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.